I just don't think this OpTic team has what it takes to beat this FaZe squad.
For this LAG roster it's a lost cause, I feel like.
Is everyone in agreement with this tier list? Does anyone have any objections before we lock it in? What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Reverse Sweep presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code Reverse Sweep for a first deposit match of up to $100. Today we're going to discuss the new maps, the weekend's matches, including our PrizePicks segment, finishing off with community questions. But before we get into that, I just want to say half our viewers every week aren't subscribed, so let's get that number up this week, lads. Let's make sure we're hitting that subscribe button and getting that locked in. So something to note. We've had a sick weekend of Call of Duty matches and the first of the stage 3 qualifying matches, and we've had 5 new rosters playing this weekend. So there's a lot to talk about, and finishing off with a big match at the end, we had the grand finals rematch between OpTic and FaZe. So that's definitely going to be a big topic of conversation for us, so make sure you tune in for that. I'm joined today by Pat, Chris and Doug, but before we get into the matches, want to talk about the new maps, really. We've had 6-star hardpoint and S&D being introduced, and Vista hardpoint. I'd like to know your guys' opinions on the new maps, guys. Starting off you, Chris, as you're a bit of a nerd when it comes down to it, to be honest.
I really like the new additions. They just create way better of a dynamic in terms of like your meta. We're not seeing as many ARs out. There's clear defined roles. Some machine gun players are shining. And I feel like it's just way more entertaining for the viewers because the maps usually end in pretty high engagements. I do like 6-star a lot just because it kind of seems like that raid-esque type of map, but also it's still pretty rotation heavy while still like allowing a ton of engagements to go down on the map. Vista is just like Rio though. It's just flooding and trading, and I don't know. I like it way better than the 2 maps we had before. Invasion had a lot of fluky spawns and it played a little slow. And then Skid Row, again, was just super rotation heavy, really slow, especially with the new spawn. So we're really happy with the map pool right now. The only thing that I could still say we need fixing is maybe adding a different control in, because I still feel like there's issues in that map pool.
Yeah, I agree. And it seems like what I heard was like the pros agree that a new control needs to come in. They just couldn't decide between which one, right? Like, have to, and we've talked about this, right? Like there's so much bias when it comes to picking these maps and how the GAs go and whatnot. And so if half the teams are like, no, high rise should go, but the other half are like, no, invasion should go, they kind of get to that stalemate. But I agree. I think, we do need another control, but I think both of these maps getting added in hardpoint S&D is a net positive.
Yeah, I just triple agree, dude. 6-star is probably my favorite map. I've been playing it a lot in ranked play. It's definitely my favorite map in the game. I love how beautiful it looks. I love how symmetrical the map is. And just adding to Chris's point, having more aggressive gameplay with some machine guns, and also eliminating old school maps from our new gen Call of Duty with tactical sprinting and sliding is a massive win. I just do not like the idea of us playing remastered maps in Call of Duty. I would love for us to maybe bring them in every now and then for seasons, but bringing in these maps midway through the season, I think, is saving this game. It's saving the competitive integrity of the game, and it's making the game a lot more interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I think I agree with you guys completely that this has definitely improved the map pool. I think the only thing that we all probably agree on as well is 6-star. They just got to change that P5 hill, like the water. Everyone's just swimming about there, dodging bullets. Hopefully that's something that I know that it was spoke about that's going to potentially get changed. Hopefully that comes in quickly. Sooner rather than later, because I think that's probably my only issue with that map, to be honest. But let's get into the matches. Let's get right into it. So LAG, let's talk a little bit about them, because I think they're a team that after each major we're kind of like, yo, are they going to come into the online stage and actually show up? And again, they've just been double 3-0'd this weekend, showing that they're just a terrible online team. I mean, I don't think they're a great team in general, but their online woes continue, and I just really don't know what this team needs to do to pick up victories online, to be honest.
It's got to be something mental. Like, yeah, everyone could say roster change, but like, it's clear that they're not going to make one. You can blame the organization for that. You can blame the players, blame whoever you want. I don't think this roster is changing, bar them maybe trying their sub on their roster Flames at any point if they wanted to. But outside of that, I think a lot of the reason they just struggle online is just complete mental. It's just all mental. I don't know what it is. But it has to be. Like, they go to LAN, they play teams that they lose to online. They're a non-factor online. Their series aren't even competitive. You could make the same argument for Ravens, right? Like, they play better on LAN, but at least they take maps, they don't look terrible when they play online. They still shoot their guns back, but online for this LAG roster it's a lost cause, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost to the point of writing them off. Like, I know they've been able to get some placements at LAN, but we've talked about this. Like, there's bracket cheese involved where you just draw really good matchups, and it's not like they're beating teams that are better than them. They're basically beating the teams that are in that 8 through 12 bubble with them. But I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I don't know what else to say other than like they just need a roster change. And Chris, you've made it pretty clear that you believe that this organization is kind of given up and they're not going to make any. So it's kind of sad to see. It kind of reminds me of like years past Vegas Legion teams where they just felt chalked and like they weren't going to do anything and they just accepted that they were bad. I don't know. I mean, the weird thing is, Chris, is like you say they're not going to make a roster change. They at least have a sub on their team. So it's like they don't even have to make a roster change. They could maybe sub him in, but they're just so bad that something needs to change. I don't know what it is.
I have to agree with Pat on this just because if you do have a sub on your team and it's Flames and he did just win his first Challenger tournament not too long ago, there's something that needs to just simply be different with this roster. And we can say it's mental. I definitely think that has something to do with it too. We can say it's maybe, are they playing from home, by the way? They're
all in Texas, I think.
They have 3 people in Texas, 2 of them in San Antonio, 1 in Houston, and then Estriel is in the Carolinas.
Okay, so we can't say it's because I know in the past we've seen teams play from the West Coast and they would always complain maybe it has something to do with the ping differential or something.
They have told me that they are always on the worst ping. I know it's probably by fractions because the CDL does their best to eliminate their ping disadvantages from certain team or from every team. But they always say that they are on the higher ping. So, I mean, regardless of what it is, I don't think that the higher ping is stopping them from losing to dog shit other teams that they at least beat on LAN. I think it's purely mental. And at the very least, I would rather them try to see if Flames fits on this roster and could potentially improve them. But I mean, outside of that, there's nothing else they can do. It's almost like exhausting talking about it because they've been the same team this whole time. They've had the same issues this whole time. We've told them what we expect them to do. I mean, and they haven't done anything. So,
and if you're not going to try to progress in some positive way, like either do a role change or a roster change. Looking back at Thieves and Vanguard, if they don't do that role change, do we think they win champs? I'm going to say no. I mean, doing the role change obviously was a huge component to them winning champs. Something in this pace of this team has to change. Maybe put Fame on the AR. I don't know. But then you got Assault and Diamond Con, so it's tough because those guys are traditional AR players. But
they
again,
don't really have flexes.
That's the issue too, Pat. So it's like you have 2 ARs that kind of run the same role in the past on the same team. Estriel is he's a playmaker in my opinion, and Fame is more of a flex. I think Fame could kind of do it all. So it's just a tough spot where I think at the worst case scenario, there's not really much you can do other than go up, and you're not trying to fight to just barely make it to champs, to barely get there, just to get 8th place. Like you want to try to fight to see something in your team that even though maybe you don't believe in it right now, you could just show up at that one tournament at that one time and make that run that you're looking to make because it's Call of Duty and it's any given day. So something has to shake up, whether it's a roster change or a role change.
Yeah. I think as well, like something to note, and this is going to be a topic of conversation throughout today's show, is just with these new maps coming in as well, looking at this roster, like although I don't have their Skid Row and Invasion Hardpoint records sitting in front of me right now, if you look at this team, you look at them and think that they're not a team that's really good at these sort of faster paced SMG heavy maps, and we've brought in some of those into the rotation. So maybe now this stage, are they going to continue these online woes into LAN as well? That's something that I could definitely see happening with this new map pool. And I think that's definitely a big topic of conversation here today. And I think that moving into like our next topic, with Toronto, I think that's definitely a big factor with them as well, with their S&D being such an issue last stage. Coming in this stage, their auto veto has now been removed in terminal S&D, and now we're going to be able to maybe see some more depth in terms of their strategy. I think that they're definitely going to go in depth and try and change a lot of things, because if you've seen any of their content they've been pushing out, they did say they kind of just tried to do what was working for them at stage 1 during stage 2. And as a lot of you guys know, when you're a champion and you're coming into another stage after that or another event, you're going to have teams just watching what you're doing, copying what you're doing, and it's really hard to maintain that level of success in that scenario. So I think for Toronto, it's definitely about them changing up a lot of their strategies in S&D and coming in correct, because their hardpoint looked so good last stage.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Toronto, at least going into this stage, is that, again, you said their auto veto's gone. They're already a good hardpoint team. They did lose Skid Row hardpoint, which was a map they were pretty good at. They didn't really play Invasion too much, so I guess they kind of went even in terms of the trade there, but they benefited from the S&D change. So, I mean, they get help in their weakest game mode here by introducing a new map that they could potentially master and get good at, and at the very least, maybe not have an auto veto, which will help them strategize against other teams, but I mean, overall, I still expect Toronto to maintain their top 4 form, and I think that you'll probably see them return to that like championship caliber form that we saw at Major 1.
Yeah, the big thing for me too is like Envoy, right? Like this is also the the maps that's coming in like SMG, and SMGs are kind of favored in these maps. So I'm hoping that Envoy can turn around his very lackluster Major 2. And again, yeah, their S&D will definitely pick it up. But to Chris's point, this team is probably still the best hardpoint team. If you look at their win percentage overall, even with the maps removed, so I expect them to still stay dominant. But yeah, I just hope they clean it up overall. And again, Envoy for me has to step up for how bad he played last season or last Major.
And it kind of reminds me of their same team that they had with Hixie as well. I mean, you would regularly see Hixie drop 0.7s, 0.8s, It seemed like he would clutch when he needed to, just like how Envoy would too. So I wonder how much of it is just the actual trio that they have between Kleenex, Inside, and Scrap, as opposed to Envoy, because we all know what Envoy can do, and it is strange for us to see him go through this slump. So maybe it's a little too early to talk like this about it, but I definitely think that if anyone could turn this around, it would be Envoy. He's a world champion for a reason, and he's always been making plays, and he has a great culture around him too. So I definitely think that he's going to bounce back soon.
Yeah. Something that also needs to bounce back is our PrizePicks. Luckily for us, PrizePicks has quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types, and it's what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So looking at our picks from this past weekend, I thought when I was watching that FaZe Minnesota series, I was getting hyped because I thought we were going to be good. Accuracy was threading the needle, but he did land at 46, and then Simp was a few off, and then from there it was just downhill. Very close from our projections though. Accuracy was half a kill, Nero half a kill, and then Estro kind of got shit on. This I want to say something. I think we should stop picking any entries with this LAG team just because I have no idea what to expect from any of them. I'm like, oh, this guy's their most consistent, and he gets shit on. And then I picked like the guy who like when assault, right? We were like, he was hitting less over and over and over and over, and they were like, fuck it, he'll get more this time. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of LAG and putting them in our entries.
Agreed, 100%.
I agree. That's actually hilarious.
Estrel as well. Like, I mean, in general, this LAG team, I think we kind of had the mentality like when we were doing these, are they going to eventually come in and actually play good online? And
Yeah.
again, they just didn't.
They've let me down too many times.
Yeah,
We might just have to give them the lucky treatment. So, always go last.
Lucky's been on a tear though. Lucky's been playing good online.
Maybe he's been watching and seeing that we've been picking him less every time.
yeah.
But yeah, we lost this one. But moving into next Friday, we got 3 games, and I'm gonna read them out to you. I'm curious what you guys think. We got basically 3 of the top 4 teams going up against 3 of the bottom 12 teams. So we got New York versus Ravens, OpTic versus Surge, and Ultra versus Heretics. And I'm expecting just 3 absolute smoke show series.
You know what? I actually don't know. I've got a weird feeling that Seattle are going to make it close against OpTic. I think that all 3 of the top 4 teams will win regardless.
Wait,
but
of all those, you think that one's going to be close?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I'm thinking is going to be closest. Yeah, I've
Absolutely not.
I agree,
really?
Chris. Yeah, I don't know. OpTic's looking pretty good, even though they lost to FaZe.
No, they are looking good, but
There could be a world where like Seattle like 6-star, they've been playing it. OpTic tries to play 6-star again. And Seattle just might be still sneakily good at that map because they've played it in their last series, and I think they're pretty confident in playing it. So OpTic will just say, let's play Stick Star against Seattle. Let's try it out. And maybe they give them a run for their money.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, 6-star though, if we're like looking at our projections, etc., it's not really like a high kill map from what we've seen so far. Well, at least from what I've seen. I mean, you obviously can have people going off and etc., but like you guys were saying at the start of the show, it's a very much a rotation based map, and you do see teams giving up like 20-30 seconds on some of these hills in comparison to like Vista or Rio. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know if 6-star really brings us more kills. So, to be honest, I don't even know what to even think about these. We could go a lot of lesses this weekend. I think that's probably the best shout, to be honest.
I think we just start preying on downfalls, right? 0-4
Yeah, we said we're going
to
stop.
Oh, man.
I'm going for the 0-4 less here. I don't think he had a particularly good debut. I think he played all right, but he didn't put up a lot of kills, didn't put up a lot of damage. And that was against, a not too good team. So when he plays against OpTic, I just think he's going to play worse.
But we got to assume, too, his projection's going to be pretty low because of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. 0-4 has good pacing. I feel like even though he didn't play that well, and it is hard to adjust to CDL when you're a challenger player going into the league. It's something I've noticed regularly with players. 0-4's pacing is pretty solid, and OpTic is a team that, although they're very talented, I feel like he could figure out a way to just get his pacing against the team. Like I don't know. I just have a weird feeling that 0-4 is not going to play statistically horrible in this series. Like what I think picking the more with 0-4 is the move. I want to take the more with 0-4.
That sounds like that's a bar.
Fucking way, bro.
I'm just saying it for what it is.
So you just want us to lose?
No, I love winning just like you, Pat. I love winning just like you.
You know what? It sounds so delusional, but I kind of just want to back Doug's 0-4 shout here, just purely for the.
They could literally get 50 point clubbed. Like
yeah, they could.
But 0-4 still have the more though.
This is OpTic versus Seattle, guys. This is not Seattle versus LAG.
Right? How about?
There's no way we're picking a more.
Hurricane Brezzy making it easy for 0-4 to get his gaps.
Not happening.
He has to prove himself versus OpTic. He has to go crazy. There's no gaps.
Let's just go abuse a less. Let's go abuse a less.
Abuse a less too.
I like that.
aBeZy did not play particularly well in the respawns either today.
Yeah, let's just go abuse a less, man. I don't know if you guys agree, but if we're looking at this match, I mean, you're going to look at the stiffest player in the team, in my opinion, and I'd say that's probably aBeZy if you're wanting to go a less on this squad. So that's
he is
my
running
logic.
an AR now, so he is going to be slower.
He's always been quite a stiff AR, so.
Well, what about? I don't know why, but it's speaking to me. A Gwyn Moore.
Gwyn?
Yeah, in the Ravens versus New York game. We got 3 series to pick from here.
Wait, the Ravens New York game will actually be a decent game.
You're liking the Gwyn Moore.
I think I like the Gwyn more.
So a Gwyn Moore and a aBeZy less. That's what we got so far. Everyone like that.
Don't sleep on the 0-4 more, Pat. That's all I'm going to say.
We're already picking a aBeZy less.
0-4 is not going for more, bro.
I know. I get it.
We'll watch it, Doug, and we'll come back next week and we'll see if you were right.
He's gonna have a 0.7.
All right. What about anyone else on OpTic New York, Toronto Heretics? That's just screaming to you guys.
I mean, like the Toronto one, I feel like is going to be a fast series. So, like, if we pick anyone for like a more or less, I think it's just going to be a gamble on whether Miami can extend a series. What if we just do the opposite of what we've been praying on, bro? We just do the lucky more.
No.
He's been hitting the more though.
I was gonna say Real more. If we're gonna go anyone,
That's a good shout. He's been solid.
But he played good in the searches is the problem. Like if this is a 3-0, like
he does play fast though.
I just think they're gonna get cooked by Toronto, bro. Like they're gonna get fucking world starred.
I think his pacing versus Toronto would be solid. I feel like he's the type of player who values his life and also wants to play kind of aggressive but passive, and I feel like Toronto matches that well. So it's either going to be really good or really bad. It's risky.
I just think he's going to get. I just think that Toronto's going to fucking 3-0 them in 10 seconds.
You're saying insight less.
That's a solid pick.
I would say that, but Insight played good in their last series that they actually cooked in. I think Insight and Kleenex literally played the best in that last series
But
they played.
Dylan wasn't playing that well, Chris.
Dylan
so I
wasn't
think
playing
they just
that
kind of
well,
picked
and
up some
Scrap
slack.
also had like a 0.9 something. So and they still won.
I mean, do you think Miami will play them on Rio or 6-star? Like, do we think that could get in?
Or Vista. I think Rio, Vista are both going to be map playables here.
Yeah, I mean, Miami played Rio against Boston, although they lost. They played it. They won Vista, so it's one of those ones where they're definitely comfortable playing these mixy maps. I mean, if you look at Miami as a team, they're definitely looking like a squad that's probably going to be more comfortable in those situations because they have 3 quote unquote natural SMGs. So for me, I feel like we're definitely going to see some like fast paced maps here. So
The insight less is speaking to me, guys.
I think so too. I think so too.
I just think Chris is right. I think this is going to be a blowout. Like,
yeah, I'm down to go with that, to be honest.
so we want to lock those in. Gwyn more, aBeZy less, and insight less.
Yeah, I think we just keep it at 3.
Yeah, I agree. We'll do 3 instead of 4.
Lock it in.
Alrighty. Remember, guys, PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make these picks and submit them in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code REVERSESWEEP for a first deposit match up to $100.
And now, getting right back into the Call of Duty action, guys. We finished off the weekend with a FaZe versus OpTic match. We had it in the grand finals of the last event. And it was the same old story, really. We had OpTic coming in and winning map 1, putting themselves in a really good spot in map 2 and map 3, but they just collapsed time and time again in multiple of these must-win rounds on high rise and ultimately go on to lose the series 3-1. What is it? What do you guys think is the reason that OpTic continue to crumble in these scenarios against FaZe?
Can I start this one, please?
Block. Yeah, go for it, Doug.
Dude, FaZe is final, man. I mean, the thing that kind of made me feel FaZe was final was the way they won on LAN. And I just want to reiterate what I said after the LAN championship as well. When they were down 4-2 on that high-rise search and destroy, I believe they were in a 2 versus 4 and they iced up. And they made amazing mid-round adjustments in search and destroy. I've always been a preacher of S&D wins you or loses you championships. And it comes down to when you're down 2-5, like we'll get into it Boston Breach, but Pat, I've been there too, down 2-5 versus Zuma in the finals. And he blamed the bomb glitch when we came back and beat him. So like, I'm just sitting here like, dude, Boston Breach just had the Uno reverse sweep on the 5-2. FaZe was just down 2-4. They were about to go down 2-5 as well. Right. And I just think that FaZe always will figure out in the middle of the game exactly how to counter whatever the other team is doing better than anyone else. I think that's the X factor here. I think that all these teams are incredible, especially OpTic. I think they're an incredible roster. I think they're all in the right mind state. I think they're all playing amazing Call of Duty. I think it's just going to come down to FaZe having a bad day. If FaZe has a bad day, you could capitalize and get away with the win. But it looked like OpTic could have went up 2-0 in the series. Unfortunately, it was the same thing as LAN. All LAN is repeating itself, and it just comes down to FaZe being able to pick apart their opponents.
I just think prime for prime, when both teams are playing at their best, like there's just no way that OpTic wins. Especially right now with the map pool, like OpTic need to get good at one of the maps in the map pool, and we did see them play 6-star, and they looked pretty good on it. And it was also an S&D map, so clearly I think they've acknowledged their map pool issue, especially with them losing Skid Row, which was a map they were good at, and Invasion, which was a map that they played at, and then S&D on Terminal was another map they were pretty good at. So they lost a lot of maps that they were finding success on in the recent stage, and so they have to adopt these new maps into their gameplay. Another thing that they did that was interesting is they got rid of Vista, which is one of the newer maps. We saw FaZe is pretty good at that map. It seems like they're going to favor that map as well. So they have no choice but to essentially play FaZe on Rio or Vista at this point now, because they know that FaZe is going to veto subbase. So they have to get good at 6-star if they want to even have a chance. And they did have a chance this time, right? They won that first map, but ultimately the S&D, they choked that, and they also choked the control. So I don't know. I think they're just they need to get that 6-star as a guaranteed map that they can play against FaZe and then go from there.
One thing with OpTic though is like I feel like this today was an opportunity for them to get that win because FaZe, although we agree that FaZe versus OpTic, both teams playing at their best, FaZe are going to win every day. But FaZe were not at their best today. And there's a lot of these situations where OpTic should be winning the rounds like 80-90% of the time. And this has been a reoccurring theme in this matchup that we've seen. If it's like, 220 to 220 and it's close and it's a nail biter of a game and it gets closed out by FaZe and both teams are playing at a high level, then fair enough. But like there's so many situations here where OpTic are just not able to close out, and I think that's my biggest concern really.
In the S&D, I think they got 8 first bloods or something like that. They got like
8 out of 10, yeah. And
8 out of 10 first bloods and they still lost, which is fucking insane.
Yeah. So OpTic need to figure that out.
I don't even know what to do. I mean, like, we talked about it from the major. It was just like, we genuinely felt like, hey, OpTic played better COD, but got beat. Like, they got outslayed. Like, I genuinely feel like we're in this kind of era that it was like the opposite in Vanguard, where FaZe just has their number. And they're only going to match up one more time in an online qualifier match. And obviously, they'll probably play a couple times at LAN, depending on how the brackets go. But I'm kind of in the boat where I just don't think this OpTic team has what it takes to beat this FaZe squad. I think FaZe might run the pockets all year against this team.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely, and it's same for FaZe as well in this matchup that they had at the start against Minnesota of the weekend, where they were down quite a bit. And it's almost like they just sit forward.
Too icy. Yeah, they just...
Yeah. They're putting themselves in these weird situations. They're down a lot. And then it's just like, you're watching like, are Minnesota about to win this first map here? And then Simp just sits forward, starts popping 3 pieces. And it's just like every single time, it's like they've got to the point now where they've been so dominant that they definitely do take the foot off the gas a little bit at the start of some matches and start of some maps. But then they're able to just sit forward. I think that's maybe a bit of an issue for FaZe, really. Maybe that could creep in further on down the line where teams start to actually punish them for these poor starts.
They just flipped the switch.
And
no matter who they play.
2 things to keep in mind. aBeZy had a migraine today, just saying. And also, FaZe did have more practice because I did notice OpTic was streaming a little bit more towards when the new maps did come out, when I know FaZe was grinding the maps. So I do think it is still new, the maps, and I think that FaZe has a slight upper hand in terms of practice on them. And also, again, just go back to search and destroy. You could trade respawns and go blow for blow and respawns, but clutching up in those search and destroys is everything to winning a championship. So if they could figure that out as a team, and like you said, Chris, you got 8 out of 10 first bloods and you're not winning the rounds, you got to figure that out. Like there's just no other way around it.
Yeah. We did see quite a lot of the new rosters actually going to toe-to-toe this weekend. We've seen Boston, Miami, who are obviously kind of like 2 of the actual rosters that have made changes going against each other. Most of the other times it was a new roster versus a roster that's kind of been together for some amount of time. What do you guys think of that Boston-Miami matchup, and what did you guys think about the both the new rosters?
I mean, the series should have been a 3-0. I think we could all agree. Boston definitely choked that one, but I think this Boston team is going to be interesting to watch. I think Priesta, at least from what I could tell, kind of needs to understand that this roster isn't like that old one, and I think he needs to buy into that style, regardless of whether he agrees with the new style of play. But you can kind of tell, Snoopy, I thought looked good. He's still playing the same COD, but I think this is like what we were talking about before, where it was like, Slasher and Asum, they wanted to play a certain way, and they weren't on the same page as a team, for what it looked like. And I just think they need to buy into this new style. I didn't think Pentagram had a great debut. I expected him to be better on this squad. But I mean, overall, I think Boston should have 3-0'd this team, and obviously it didn't. It went down to the wire, and they didn't clutch up. Game 5 still an issue, but Miami, I thought, looked like Miami. I mean, I think Real is definitely a solid piece, but I think, Chris, you were talking about it too, medals, what happened to that guy? I feel like he's got to either step it up or get back to form, because he fell off. I know they also did a role switch, right? Now Vickle is running sub, I think, and Metals is a flex.
They're cooked, bro.
Yeah,
that is not a good role. That is not a good idea. I think they're just overthinking it. in terms of their role change. I think Metals just needs to fucking, I don't know,
Get kills.
hit the firing range or something. That boy needs to play the game more or something, because he's just not getting kills. Like, and I mean, their S&D has always been pretty decent, and then Real obviously adds to that. He played really good in their S&D, but their respawn is just going to be abysmal. They need Metals. They need him. He's literally been just as bad as Eric Boom statistically.
I mean, bro, what's crazy is he was setting the kill record in the early stage one, and now he's just like, we're talking about him as the worst player on the team.
He fell off completely. Vickle used the sub this series. He didn't look particularly good either. Their S&D is not role based. Like, people are just running whatever, I'm sure. So, like, go back to your original role. You got a new player on your team, and just everyone needs to step up. As for Boston, though, their problem's always been Search. It was Search last split with the old roster. It's still their problem now. They just can't close. It seems like they have one gear, and they're just, I don't know. The way they played that Karachi and came back on was just mind-blowing, because you had so many defensive opportunities to just blind stack a bomb site and work together, get some trades. The fact that they were up 5-1 or 5-2 and still ended up not even having defense on the final round means they got stomped. World starred, no trades, no kills, going up to 5-5, because it goes to the one with the most kills. Like, bro, they weren't even putting themselves in positions to win rounds. They couldn't get trades. Like, excuse me, that shit's unacceptable. Group up, 4-stack a bomb site for all I care, and to hope it works, and then go trade out the other site. I don't know. As for the respawn, I think Beans is good. I think Beans has always been a shooter. He was a shooter on the last team. I think the team just didn't mesh well, and people gave him flack because of his comms, but I think Beans thrives in these type of games, because a lot of people like to look at him as a statuesque AR, but he's not. He's actually like pretty mechanically skilled. He like runs, he plays pretty aggressive. He put up a lot of damage and stuff like that. Snoopy played better statistically that in their respawns. Priesta, again, still doesn't really do much for the team. Lowest engagements, lowest kills.
I'm begging him to get kills. I'm begging. Just play selfish, Preston.
I just don't understand. He used to be like a sub player, grapple
he
sub
used to
guy.
be a maniac.
Like, he used to be a maniac.
Yeah.
Now he's like an old man. Like,
he used to play how people are critiquing Snoopy for. Like, literally. Like, that's how he played. He was just running around gunning people. That was what he did. And I feel like, obviously, things changed. He started playing an AR role later in his career, but it's like, dude, Attach is doing the same thing. I just want him to be a little bit more selfish and a little bit more slay heavy, because he's constantly leading this team in less engagements and less kills. Like, just get active on the map, especially with this roster.
He's been their statistical worst player for the last two stages. But obviously he knows how to win, is like the whole story behind him. And I have no doubt, like, you know, obviously the results speak for themselves, but still.
I feel like he's stuck in playing how he played on New York. And it's like, yeah, that's all good and fine when you're surrounded by a team of superstars and you just got to fill the gaps. But, like, to me, that's not the role that he should have on this Boston team. Like, he could do and help them so much more by playing to his potential.
100%. And if you look at, like, using the statistics, I know it's only one match and we definitely need to take it with a pinch of salt, and there might be some more improvements down the line as we see them sort of playing together more, but I think the biggest thing I need to do is make sure that the pacing of both their SMGs and ARs gets a little bit closer together. Obviously you're always going to have maybe, you know, one guy that's a bit more aggressive on each of the roles, but at the end of the day there's like 30 kill differences in the SMGs, like in terms of interactions, and the same thing with AR. There's like a good 15-20 interactions in between, so it's like one of those ones where there's a big pace differential between Pentagram and Snoopy and Priesta and Beans from what we've seen from the first match. But again, I'll reserve judgment until I see them a little more, because we've only seen them once. But
I will say, Mark, because I know we didn't talk on it too much, but Minnesota, obviously they had a terrible draw weekend playing the two top four teams. But
yeah,
I actually was impressed by their roster. Like, Gunless, I thought, played better than I was expecting him to play. Like, if he can come on this team and be a consistent, like, 1.0, consistent kill leader, and, you know, add to the comms the way he was. I mean, I think he's a better communicator than Wake. I think he's just a straight up more consistent player. I was pretty impressed by that. And I think, you know, obviously they had 2 losses, but going forward when they played teams more on their level, I think they could maybe make a case for arguing for that 5th, 6th spot, right? With probably Vegas and Thieves at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Gunless's comms have been really impressive to me, honestly. And that's even going back into challengers. The way he communicates is it's almost like he's talking to children in a way in different respects, where he's like, right, guys, let's all rotate to the next hill. Like, he's very like he's very like clear and concise, but it's calming at the same time. I think that it's really good the way he sort of took in that communication style. I mean, although I don't really remember like what he was like previously, I feel like he's definitely changed the way he communicates and try to be more of that kind of leadership figure in his teams, which I know he's always been, but I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's kind of got this sort of, preconception of being this kind of guy that's very demanding and like shouting at his teammates almost in a lot of situations, which from what we've seen so far and heard in the listenings hasn't been the case. So yeah, I definitely am impressed by them so far, and I'm interested to see how they do when they play against some more teams in their sort of region.
I just want to say my piece on Boston as well. It is the first match. Obviously, when you make a lot of changes, it's going to take some time for it to show if it does improve, because we were dead last in the league. But I definitely had a lot of confidence watching them play. I thought they looked really good, and I think we all agree it absolutely should be a 3-0. I personally, when I see a 5-2 lead in search, I'm going to make it absolutely certain. Like, personally for me, guys, when I see a 5-2 lead in search, you got to close that out. No ifs, ands, and buts. Every single time, 100% of the time. I don't care if you're playing Atlanta FaZe at their ultimate peak. You must close those out. You got to dig deep, figure out a way to just win one single round. Keep it absolutely focused on
Bro,
that
you're
one
getting
round.
multiple defensive opportunities, and defense on this game, it's like on you to fuck up. Like, think about the map they were playing. It's Karachi, bro. Like, go like triple stack stats, like literally throw a trophy down B cut, get control of bridge, get control of like close market. Like, you're gonna win a round. You're gonna win one defense like that, unless they just go A every round. Like, I guarantee you'll win one round like that.
Expect
like,
them to scam a first blood, Chris, right? Like,
they're gonna, bro. Like, it's
100%.
fucking Karachi, bro. It's not rocket science. Like, you're gonna win a defense,
and you have the talent to bail yourself out too.
Instead, they just like sprinting at market. Like, they're just running up mid. They're just fucking running out there, getting not traded. By the way. Like, they're not even playing trade scenarios. They're just like hoping one guy hits a lane and gets through and gets like a first blood and they cascade. But like, they weren't giving them any freebies. Just go stack a site, play some trades.
Respawn looks good though. Respawn looks really good.
Yeah, the respawn didn't look bad at all. They were pretty good.
Yeah, that's true, 100%. I think like overall they are probably in a situation now where they've just got to like use this as motivation, because I think that, like you guys said, they're in so many situations to just close out, but ultimately they just group up together, like you guys are saying. Kind of moving on to the next matches, we spoke about them a little bit during the PrizePicks segment, but Seattle obviously making some roster changes here. They get a victory against Carolina, nearly got reverse swept, all their players negative, but they still get the job done, they still get the win. What's your guys' thoughts on 0-4, and what's your guys' thoughts on this new Seattle team? Do you think they're going to be at the same level as they were when they had Illy on their team? Do you think they can surpass that, or do you think they're going to kind of still stay about the same like level as they were before?
I don't think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be good. They played Ravens, who are not particularly good at search. They won 2 searches, and one of them was a new map. And as you can see, when they played that new map, they were just bombarding, running at them, running at a bomb site. Like, obviously it's working now because they're just forcing teamwork. They're like playing BO4. But that's not going to be a thing that's going to work forever. Eventually, teams are going to catch on. They're going to understand how to play the map. They're going to understand how to pick people apart. And Seattle will probably fail to adapt, as they have with pretty much the entire year of gameplay. I've always expected them to be a pretty decent search team. But in terms of the respawn, I think, they ended up squeezing one out. And again, it was a 6-star. So it's a new map that teams have not caught on how to play. Like, that overly aggressive, like reckless play style that they play, it's going to work earlier as especially when a new map gets introduced, because people don't know everything yet. People don't know like the timings and stuff like that. But once those get figured out, bro, like, it's not going to work. I don't think this team's going to get that much better. Yes, I think 0-4 is pretty good, but he didn't really have an insane performance or like an insane a match. I think he played pretty decent in search, but outside of that, like, no, I don't think this is going to move the needle for them. I think they just obviously caught one of the bottom teams slipping, as they, as it's kind of expected at this point.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. I think 6-star, I think like you mentioned, has been a crucial one for this weekend, with a lot of matches being decided there, because like you said, once teams have got more reps in, you're going to start to see that maybe hard countering of different players, etc. I could definitely see Hugh getting caught in sort of doing a lot of similar plays and getting caught in some first blood scenarios he was having his way in that game 5. same with aBeZy, but I think that Hugh is one of those players that he kind of has his set plays that he likes to do, and once people start to figure those out, it makes it hard for him to play in S&D.
Yeah, think about it this way, right? Like 6-star is going to be like the new terminal for them. Like at the beginning of the season in stage 1, they got terminal in a lot of their series, and they were able to like translate that into victories. And everyone was like, "Oh, is this the 5th, 6th best team?" Eventually, terminal started getting vetoed, and they stopped being able to play it. And then they got worse. I mean, 6-star right now, they played it in Carolina series. I'm sure they got some confidence under their belt. They'll probably play it again, going up against OpTic next week. Maybe they upset OpTic on that map, right? And then they're like, okay, well, teams, that's going to be on the radar now. They like to play 6-star, get it out. And then, things are just going to like get even harder for them. So, good win by all means. It's good to see them get a win. Obviously they were non-competitive before, but do I think that's going to last? Probably not.
What about you, Patton?
No, it's not going to last. That's all I got to say. It's not going to last.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Doug?
I'll say this. I kind of have to think that 04, like I've been saying, take the 04 more, right? But he really, to me, has to prove himself in Respawn still. I think he has incredible intuition for the game, and I think his S&D is tier 1. And I think there's no questioning how good 04 is in Search and Destroy. But this Seattle roster, I think they have a little bit more to work on as well. Even though they did get this win versus Carolina, they barely scraped by on it. I think that all year, their formula for winning will be grabbing one respawn and being flawless in both the Search and Destroys. And if they're not, they'll probably lose a lot of series 3-1.
That's an insane strategy.
So I don't know how it's going to work out. But again, they did get a win. A win is a win in the league, no matter how you want to look at it. So it's yet to be seen.
We're talking about these teams. It's so hard to just like tip a win right now because every team that won, that was a new team. They all won game 5s, right? I'm pretty sure like all of the teams that made roster changes ended up winning game 5s. It was Miami game 5, Seattle game 5, and then who was the other team that LAT game 5? What was it? No, LAT didn't win game 5, right?
No,
did they? They did. Yeah, every single team was a game 5. So it's like, I want to give these teams their props, but like when it comes to like actually being significant wins, are they actually? Like probably not. Obviously, it was the first. I think
the way to look at it, Chris, is it kind of just reaffirms that all the bottom teams are still kind of on the same level.
Even with roster changes, exactly.
And like the only ones like that I'm looking at again is we need to see more from Rocker, right? They played 2 top 4 teams, so we can't judge them too much. And then, like, who's going to be better between Vegas and Thieves? Obviously, Thieves got the best of them today. But, again, I mean, I know we've talked about this a million times. I'm still calling for Vegas to upgrade, get rid of Purge. Like, he is the clear worst player in the league. He's 60th in, like, all the stat categories.
He's statistically worse than Fellow?
There's only 48 players in the league. Think about this. And he's 60th. That means every player that's came and went, he's still worse than them.
Yeah,
you guys understand. I mean,
as much as he potentially brings to their game, like, and how much they believe in him, I just think he's a liability at this point. Yeah, he's gotten better. Yeah, he's he does his thing in search, and he sometimes will make good plays. But like, if you're like attached Geo and Nero, like I just feel like you have the potential to be a team that upsets these top 4s.
Well, not even that. I think they have the potential to lock in the 5th, 6th, right? Like I feel like that's their potential right now. Is if they upgraded, they could lock in being the 5th, 6th best, but not with Purge.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Have these series where they just lose to shitter teams that aren't as good as them.
Pat, if you look at these players, though, like I played against Nero, I played against Geo, and I played against Purge as well. And the thing that Purge does very well is the spacing. Kind of the same thing we say with Priesta. He's really good at creating spacing for players. And for Attach to be frying, it has to be like we all know how Dylan likes to play. He likes to play slow and he likes to guarantee his kills. And a player like Purge is very intuitive. He's going to understand what his players want around him and how to bring it out in them. And I think that's why all these players on his team, especially
Attached, the thing, though. It's
vouch for him so hard.
That's the thing, though. If any of them have an off game, like it's chalked.
Yeah.
So don't you think that they need to change a little bit too, though? Because if you're statistically the worst,
yeah, but like the thing is, bro, if they're playing fucking like superstars 90% of the time, and that 10% of the time that they lose, they're not. You can't blame it on them. Like it's just not happening. They're
also a hard point team. They can't be a hard point team with a hard point liability. Like, you can't be focused on being the best hardpoint team of these 6 through 12, and you're the your teammate is the worst hardpoint player in the league.
Fair enough.
I would
can't
rather
argue that.
attach. I would rather attach be worse and Geo be worse, but they get somebody who can at least be like a consistent 0.9 or 1.0, even if the other two, don't play as well. It'll even out. Like the problem is they just rely so heavily on those two guys and Nero included slaying that if one of them have a bad game, which is gonna happen, they're cooked.
They don't have anyone to compensate for it at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that this is probably now the perfect time to go straight into the tier list, because I think that we've obviously discussed all the matches this weekend. We've discussed all the different teams, kind of where we see them standing. Let's actually start putting that into a list now, and then we can go from there, really. So what team do you guys think we should start off with? Do you reckon we should start off with the big hitters, or do you reckon we should start off with the sort of bottom of the league?
Let's go from the bottom up, bro.
I agree.
Yeah,
All right,
Bottom
let's go from the bottom up.
Yeah,
All right.
let's start at the blow it up tier and we'll rank them up. Yeah,
LAG, blow it up tier. There's no other question. Yes, they get top 6 on LAN, but at this point, their online woes are just they're just too highly piled up, bro. They
Yeah,
gotta
I don't
blow
know.
this shit up.
I don't know if I can do that straight away, because they've got 2 top 6s. Do we not? We all do say
Bro,
that LAN is
they-
more
problem
they
is who
are-
they
online.
played. The problem is who they played for those.
Yeah, but they're still beating the teams in front of them to get top 6.
They're beating the teams in front of them on LAN, yes, but like, is that going to be enough for them to make champs? I have no idea. Listen,
Yeah,
I'm
if they
rooting
go
for
0-7,
LAG.
like
If LAG get another top 6, amazing. Congratulations. But if they go to another stage without a W, bro, like I'm gonna be fucking mind blown. Like they are in blow it up tier, bro. Like
all right, they beat Thieves twice, right? The compromised Thieves team. They beat them twice at both majors. They beat the Rocker team that was compromised, and then they beat Legion at the first major. And that was with the 0.5 per J.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but is everyone that like they could potentially play against not compromised at that point? I feel like
everyone that they play, everyone that they're
I'm
gonna
saying all
play
those
in their
teams made
their
roster
runs.
changes, though. Like every
Yeah.
single one of those teams we just listed made roster changes.
Yeah,
They got to
either
do
way-
a role change or something. I agree. It's either blow it up or role change. That's my opinion.
All right,
No, it's blow it up. They put them in the blow it up tier.
let's whack them at the bottom then. Let's get it. Next
Anyone
up,
else?
Miami Heretics.
See,
Blow it up.
they gotta at least be in the dismantle.
You think so?
I feel like if I'm looking at
They
this,
have
dude,
not won a single
on.
series on LAN the whole year.
dude. I will say this though, you guys might not agree. I got Carolina in the blow it up tier too.
Nah.
The fact that Carolina did not make a roster change is crazy to
Nah,
me.
but the thing is though, like I can't listen. I cannot compare Ravens to LAG, and I'll tell you why. They have one player on their team that is a liability. They're like They're like the same as Vegas, but they're worse online. So like it looks bad because 90%, like 80% of the time you're watching them play online, they're like not playing well as a team. But like they go to LAN and they do what Vegas can't. They're like a reverse Vegas in that sense, where they both have a liability, but one team plays well on LAN and the other team plays well online. So like I would not put them in the blow it up. I would at the very least put them in dismantle them, just because like, bro, we got it. Like Fellow, I love Fellow, but Fellow has been getting Kentucky cooked this whole time. He played a little bit better today, right? Obviously, they still have more matches, and they did have to play 6-star in this, and they obviously probably don't have reps. It could have been a caught off guard. They outslayed, but I'm gonna put them. I would put them in dismantle them for now. If they have next weekend, if we were to do this tier list and they don't get a win again, I'd put them in blow it up.
would you say that their roster you would say Gwyn's their best player, then TJ, then Clay, then Fellow?
No, I would say Clay over Teach.
Got to put Clay at the top, in my opinion.
Not at the top. I'd put Gwyn, Clay, then
What?
Teach.
Are you guys watching the same game as me?
Yeah, but
Clay-
Gwen, like I've known Gwen in challengers for a long time. Like I look at the play style over the statistics.
Mark, are these guys
Nah,
watching the same game?
Clay played good at the major. He even though KD isn't everything, he was always high damage, high objective. Like
Setting pace for Gwen to get kills.
Bro, guys, like
Gwen's good at getting them, but
Listen,
And also-
it's not
also-
that hard to play good when you're playing the Heretics and then Legion, and that's it.
Yeah,
Like-
but they did beat Legion, and Legion gets touted for their
but,
AR
but we
prowess.
watched that Legion. They should have lost. Nero literally threw the game away.
Yeah, that's true. But still.
Yeah, I would probably put them in dismantle them, to be honest.
I would put them and dismantle them. I can't compare them to LAG. They at least beat Vegas, who was touted as a pretty good team. And like at the very least, when I watched them play series, they win maps. I can't say that for LAG.
I will say Carolina, they do have the ice on land in Search and Destroy, though. Albeit I know Purge did hit up the street on Invasion, but I have seen Fellow specifically ice up in Search. I'm
Hit up
just
the
saying.
street on Invasion.
I'm just saying, man. But blow it up. I can't disagree, though. I mean, if you're not seeing consistent improvement halfway through the season, this is the point. By the end of this stage or going into the next major to start considering a roster change.
Oh yeah, they need to make if shit doesn't work out this stage, they gotta be doing it midway through at that point, man. Like we're like getting to the point now where we're getting close. I mean, we're still got half the season left, but you know, after that stage 3, it's pretty much
fair,
like
it's back to back to back though. Like it's the next 10 weeks of COD basically.
exactly. So we have a lot of COD coming up. So I think they're at a point now where like if they don't get a couple wins over these next couple weeks, they're definitely gonna have to make a roster change. And I think there's 1 or 2 players you could potentially change, but for me, I think you'd probably put them in dismantle them. Just
Quinn's
because
the only guy on this team I trust.
yeah, 100%.
Wait, so I remember we brought up Heretics, but then we immediately transitioned to Ravens. So this is Ravens we're doing now, right?
Yeah, Ravens.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, put them and dismantle them.
Oh,
I would also put Heretics there.
yeah, I think Heretics like
Nah,
They're
bro.
at least
I
making
feel like
roster changes.
they've not won a map.
They haven't won a map on land, bro.
They deserve to be blown up just purely off that. Like, I don't give a fuck if they went 7-0 on this stage. They won every fucking map this stage online. If they go into LAN again and go 0-6 in maps,
They're blowed up tier.
They're not even on the tier list. There's just another fucking tier list that they're on.
They're on blowed up tier simply because they can't win a map on land. Like
Doug's losing full. They beat his team and we're putting him in.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, it's their first match as a team, and they didn't look. Their S&D, if they're losing S&Ds with a 5-2 lead, but they're looking like that in the respawn, it's, you know, like
the thing is though, if that was a land series, Doug, you would have won. Like
if that was a
3-0.
LAN series, I would be screaming backstage exactly what we're doing in Search because I'm sitting at home watching, right? Like, but on LAN, if I see that happen on LAN, I'm pulling hairs out.
Yeah. I think it's weird situation as well, right? Because obviously they have just made a roster change, talking about Miami here. And I do think that Real is going to improve this team. I do think he's going to maybe help them maybe win a map on LAN. At the same time, they're definitely in blow-up category just purely off their on their LAN performances, in my opinion. Do you all agree?
Yeah.
I agree.
I know it's a new team, but I feel like, sorry, you got to win a map on LAN.
Next,
They're not even a new team. They've been circling their fourths around like.
Yeah.
Next is Minnesota Rocker. This is a hard one because we only saw them play against top 4 teams. And although I do think they will be middle of the pack, I would still put them on alert because
Chris, we're going tiers up, man. We're not doing the teams on the bottom.
wait, are we actually?
No, we are. Are we still doing
I
like
thought
bottom
we were.
of the top?
So we're
Pat?
doing it through the tiers. We're not doing it off teams.
That's what we said before.
That's not what I said. I said when I said bottom up, I meant like let's talk about the bottom
these guys
teams
are watching a
first.
different game. They're
No,
listening
tiers
to a
up,
different show.
tiers up.
So we're doing
to be
tiers
fair,
up.
we did just put Carolina on the dismantle them, then go back to Heretics and put them in
Well, that's
blow
because
up.
we thought Heretics were gonna be in
All
dismantle.
right,
Yeah,
let's just do it. Let's
yeah.
just do it tiers up. All right. Next, still, I think in dismantle them, we put Boston in there.
Yeah.
My bad, dog.
Dismantle after one
No, okay,
series.
not dismantle. Not dismantle. Actually, we should put them on alert, bro.
Yeah, I think on alert makes sense.
I think on alert. They already made the changes. I feel like they did look better in
you
certain
guys don't think there's
aspects.
another team we put in dismantle?
Seattle, we need to be in there, mate.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
what I'm
Seattle.
saying.
Seattle.
I
This is
think
confusing
like,
me, bro. My brain can't work with this like tier list organization.
The problem that we're seeing, I think we're all agreeing with the same thing here. Because I agree with Boston. Like, you got to see what they're going to do. It's one series, and you didn't. If they got 3-0'd by Miami and didn't look any promise at all, you could definitely go and say dismantle. But when teams are making one player changes, I think it's a lot easier for us to distinguish the future trajectory of the team as opposed to a
true.
2-player change. So I think we're all in agreement with that, right?
And we,
Yeah.
I just don't feel like like, okay, I think Alec needed to get dropped, but like I don't know if 04 was the answer. Like we've talked about this roster too. Like there's more changes that should have been made. I mean,
I said they should have just picked up Cobra, bro, and just gone in on the fucking full on French squad type shit. And
Yeah,
kept
no,
Hook with them. Instead,
I
they
thought
just
that was
brought in
definitely
04 to self sabotage himself on this roster. He already had one like bad series statistically. Granted, they won. Wait until he gets like a top 4 team matchup and gets fire point 4, dude. Watch. They're gonna call him. They're not gonna call him 04, bro. They're gonna call him point 4.
In fairness to 04 in that match, right? It was really only the control that he got shit on. Like the hard points, he actually didn't play that bad. But obviously, statistically, it looks.
I just don't want him to get. I just don't want him to get fucking sabotaged by the roster he's on. Like it's so tough to see, but it's happening.
04 more, Chris. 04 more, man.
04 more. Not happening.
Listen, to go back to the whole original conversation, I think it is unfair to put Seattle and Ravens in this dismantle them and not put Boston in there. And although I do agree with Doug's point that like they've made a 2-man change, and I do think that my feelings on Boston overall with this roster change are more of a positive, and I could see them potentially like doing really well this stage. I still feel like they're bottom of the league and they've just lost, regardless of the way we look at it. I feel like they needed to be dismantling them for that reason only.
So dismantle after dismantling?
Yeah.
After one game? I see what you mean, though, Mark, because they still lost and they're still at the bottom. So
I also, listen, although I know that, Doug, you like Pentagram, and I played against Pentagram a lot in Challengers, I don't know if Pentagram is going to be a needle mover on this team.
Maybe it makes more sense to put him on alert then, because the thing is, like, I think we're kind of judging it on if they don't turn it around, or not turn it around, if they don't turn it around from how they were, they should then dismantle again. But
they should be on alert. They shouldn't be on dismantle them. And because they already did dismantling.
They could have 3-0'd. They could have 3-0'd. Like if we really think about it, they could have 3-0'd.
My problem with the Boston, obviously, Priestahh needs to play better statistically. I get he's a winner, blah blah blah. But they also I think Beans played really good. I think he shot the gun, had high damage, all that stuff, and he also played good in the searches. I think at least Snoopy played better statistically, and from the listenings and stuff like that, I feel like they just sounded better as a team. So hopefully he trends upwards. But my thing is with Priestahh and Nate, Pentagram, I think Pentagram had an easier draw this weekend with the team that he played. He played Miami, and their subs have been terrible, right? Vickle ran a sub, and then Metals was running an AR now, but he was also a sub. They did play pretty good in the respawns. They did win the majority of the respawns. However, statistically, I remember Pentagram being in Challengers as a pretty high, heavy slayer. I don't remember him being a passive player when he would play. And I feel like this was his series to really pop off and play well and at least almost stat pad to a degree, right? And show what he can do. But he didn't really have a crazy statistical map, and I don't think he played particularly well in the searches. So I'm kind of worried.
He's on alert.
He's on alert, exactly. Because when he plays against good teams, I'm curious how he's going to play. Because at least versus Miami, who's already a weaker team, he didn't really show me anything out the ordinary. While Beans was still almost putting up 20k damage, even though they lost.
Well, a good test for them next weekend is they play the Rocker.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. That's pretty even, right? A team that made 2 new changes, and we expect those guys to be kind of in the middle. So yeah, that'll be a good test. And he's playing against. Who's his subs that he's playing against? Linz, who's been good. Standy hasn't played too good. Granted, he played 2 good teams. So yeah, if he's gonna play well in a series, it's got to be that one.
And I think to jump on your point, I think that he's not going to get the same amount of kills as he got in Challenger, just obviously based on first of all the competition. Second of all, he's now coming into a team with players who are way better at getting kills, or way more focused on getting kills with Beans and Snoopy. So I think in general he has to kind of put himself in that role as that kind of gap filler type, where he's going to be basically doing the dirty work, because that's the team he's on. I think it's a completely different team than the one previously that he was with the academy roster. So, I feel like that's kind of just going to be his situation. And I do think that they're going to potentially be better with him doing that role anyway. Yeah. I do think he had a bad weekend regardless, but
100%.
And to be fair to Pentagram too, because he was planting the bombs, and yes, 5-5. Look, what Nate did 5-5 was unacceptable. I don't know what he's jumping off scaff for with the bomb. I always told the academy guys this, and I always keep it real. I don't like to lie or sugarcoat things. I always said to everyone on the academy, I said, look, I believe in you for a reason, But there's one non-negotiable when you join this team. You do not, and I repeat, you do not touch the bomb. If you touch the bomb, you get dropped. There is no explanation for you to touch the bomb. You're playing with me. I'm the best bomb planner of all time. So he is the bomb planner for the team. And I'm looking at these routes, and I swear on my life, that's what I say. And trust me, as the best bomb planner of all time, I publicly claim that. You could say whatever you want about me. That's what I publicly claim. I don't care what anyone says. I'm the best bomb planner. I'm going to make sure. I don't like what I'm seeing with these bomb plans. Okay, I'm not going to tell people how to shoot their guns, how to do this. I'm definitely telling people how to plant bombs, though, because I'm confident in that for sure.
No, I agree, Doug. You're like, there's some guarantees in life, and that's death, taxes, and Doug Censor Martin getting the bob done. 100%. So,
Chris, you know, Pat, you know. Hey, you both know.
Wait, so who's next on alert? I think we put Rocker on there.
Yeah,
Rocker
I
on there.
think Rocker makes the most sense because they played 2 top 4 teams, and we just don't know what to expect from them. Like it's hard to judge them against the top 4 because we knew they weren't going to beat the top 4 even with their change, right? Like
100%.
Basically trying to figure out where they are 6 through 12, and I think they're better than the teams below them, but we'll just have to see. Maybe not, and maybe we'll come back in a few weeks and they go down, but I think for now they're on alert. They look better than their old team, which I mean, I don't know how they could have gotten worse.
Yeah, middle of the pack.
I think we just put Vegas and
it's Vegas
LA
and Thieves.
There.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Thieves are a weird one because even though I feel like they go up 2-0 in a lot of series. Am I correct in saying that? Like last stage, I feel like that happened like 2 or 3 times.
But they also have no map 5. So them going up 2-0 is scary because they have no map 5 ice at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, that today they obviously iced up, or not today. Was it today? I can't honestly. This
Vegas
together.
Won. Vegas didn't win. No, it was Thieves that won.
Yeah,
Vegas
Thieves
won.
Yeah, it was Thieves that won.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like they did have the map 5 ice, but at the end of the day, like they consistently are pushing these game 5s and putting themselves in these positions to potentially lose series when they're looking like they're,
I mean, the interesting thing about these two teams is that they're in very similar positions, except one made a change and one didn't. I think Purge is currently, at least statistically, the worst player in the league, and I think Afro at one point, at least if it was respawn related and hardpoint related, was pretty much one of the worst players in the league as well. The Thieves made an upgrade, right? They got Joe Deceives back in from Challengers, and he looked phenomenal this weekend. So obviously, I expect these guys to trend upwards, and then Vegas, although they didn't make a change, they've been looking good at least most of the time versus every other team they've played, and they've actually had some close games versus top teams. So kind of makes sense to put these teams in the middle of the pack. Obviously, Thieves, we'll see if they can keep up this performance, but they do got Dan Ghosty on that team. And if Joe plays as good as he has, and Nasty continues to play at least decent and contribute to the team, I expect these guys to at least be a pretty decent middle of the pack team and dominate these lower tier teams.
Yeah. Now we can move into the top 4, which I feel like we're all kind of going to be unanimously agreeing on. Do we have can we just whack FaZe number 1 right now and then discuss the rest?
Does everyone think FaZe win Major 3?
I think it's
as
hard
it stands,
As it stands, yes.
And I think the new maps coming in is still going to benefit them. So yeah,
I think new maps coming in definitely benefits them.
There's nothing that's a disadvantage of FaZe in anything, it seems, honestly.
Yeah, so
they were playing with their toes today versus OpTic and still won. I was appalled.
Yeah, and then would you put any other team in that category or?
No, I was going to say we should probably rank when we do top 4. Let's rank who we think gets 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Okay,
of these 3.
Okay.
So who do you guys think is getting 4th?
It's the thing is though, it's so hard to tell with the new maps coming in. I will still say potentially New York, because I think from what I've seen, at least now, is that OpTic at least has tried experimenting with the new maps and they've looked good. I think what did Toronto play in their series? I can't even remember. They shit on LAG. It didn't even matter. But what were the maps?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember any of the maps they played?
Standard maps.
Okay, they didn't play anything new.
Karachi, right? Karachi.
Yeah.
Karachi.
Yeah,
twice.
they played their standard maps. So like, I would put OpTic 2nd still, just because I think they're actually going to try to adapt into this new map pool. They've already tried with 6-star, while I still have yet to see really anything out of New York, obviously it's pretty early. Obviously this could completely change, but like I think adapting into these new maps and getting them into your map pool early is going to be a big deciding factor on what teams place at this next tournament. And not seeing New York and Toronto not really play the new maps too much yet. It's just something to keep an eye on because I'm watching fucking FaZe and OpTic both like trying to add them into their map pool quickly.
I can agree on the New York fourth, mainly because I think their S&D has just regressed. Rocker took an S&D off them. I know it was still high rise. They lost some of their better S&D maps. I just think their S&D regressed from how good they were at it in the beginning. So I'm fine with putting New York in fourth, but I actually think this is going to be a bounce back from Ultra, and I think we're going to get a rematch between Ultra and FaZe at this event.
I think if the map pool, like, right, assuming that they got rid of some of their auto vetoes and stuff like that, it could potentially help them. That's assuming that Toronto also gets good at the new maps. Like, just because they lost their auto veto,
yeah,
I want to assume they will be, and obviously there's still a lot of the stage to tell. So we're just making a prediction, but like, I feel like them playing LAG, they should have played. I don't really remember the vetoes, and I just don't know if the series was too quick, but I feel like they should have played the new maps, at least one of them or two of them. They should have.
They didn't get the map 4. They 3-0'd them.
Yeah,
Six map was map 4.
Yeah, 6 star was map 4.
And did they pick it? I'm having a hard time thinking they picked it, and simply because I know it was in LAG's first series, so I'm going to assume they picked it. And first map was what, Karachi?
No, LAG, according to this, it says LAG were the home team, but it could be incorrect. So it means
that
LAG
picked Karachi.
Okay, so yeah, maybe they did just try to get it, and they didn't.
The thing with Ultra is like, we know they're the best hardpoint team in the league, right? And I think the fact that these two new hardpoints come in, I think they still carry that into those two new maps. The big thing is just their S&D, and if they can turn it around, I think getting new maps as well in S&D is going to help them.
The thing is, though, they only got one new S&D map, so they have to essentially get
auto
good
veto
at the
out, which forces them to play more maps.
That's 2 right there, basically.
Yeah, like they don't have to worry about their auto veto, and they get a new map they're gonna play. So that means they'll basically veto.
But if they're not,
but if they
end up not being good at 6 star, that also turns into auto veto. I mean, honestly, I think both takes are right. Like, if you say you want to put Toronto ahead, and we say we want to put OpTic ahead, it's the same thing realistically. We can do Toronto ahead if you're so convinced, just for the graphic. But like realistically, we don't even know. Like.
Let's take a vote. We go down the list. Mark, what do you have?
Oh, God.
Picking between 2 and 3. Who do you have in which?
Actually, it's such a coin toss. Oh, I'm just going to go Toronto. I'm going to go Toronto second and OpTic third.
The reason I'm going to agree with Pat and Mark on this, simply because when OpTic is consistently losing to FaZe, it definitely takes away a little bit of the appeal. Obviously, I think the fans want to consistently see an OpTic FaZe final. But when I'm consistently seeing FaZe clutching up against OpTic, and then obviously you have the Drazah and Scrappy shit talk. I know the type of guy Scrappy is, and I think
that's why we need that matchup.
I agree with Pat on that too. And look, you could put these, just like to your point, Chris, you're speaking the truth. We really don't know. But I'm just going to say Toronto just because I believe in a player like Scrappy to have simply just a bounce back where he goes, I'm the MVP of the league. I'm the best player in the game. Let me show you why right now. So I want to see a Toronto versus FaZe grand finals. Well, I want to see a Boston, obviously, but baby steps, baby steps.
No, I think that I will say that OpTic, Ultra, like I said when I was doing my vote, it's hard to pick between them. If you're seeing any team play against FaZe in the final, you want to see Ultra. I think that they've got the highest chance. I think that's the only reason you put them above OpTic, just purely off that, in my opinion.
And this could come down to how the seeds play out, right? Like FaZe and OpTic could play in an early round. Right? Yeah, we don't know
exactly. I mean, there's a lot to play. There's still how many weeks of matches this stage?
5,
6,
5 more.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a lot to shape out still. So I mean, this looks like it could be the final placements. I'd imagine the top 4 is still going to be the top 4 at the major itself, but. Is everyone agreeing with this tier list? Does anyone have any objections before we lock it in?
No.
I like it. I think we're on point.
All right. Well, let's lock in the tier list, guys. That's how it's shaped up for us. Let us know your opinions in the comments as well, and make sure you guys get your questions in. And that's what we're about to get into now, is the community questions. And again, like I just said, make sure you get those in there for next time, because since we've been sort of preaching it and reminding you guys, the questions have definitely improved, and I've been saying that each and every week. So let's get into the first one. We have, I don't even know, Oval Octopus says, question for all you guys. Do you think the old school pros who are doing well in challengers, specifically Vortex and Classic, have any chance to get back in the league, or will they continue to be overlooked for the younger players on their teams?
Unless it expands, probably not.
Yeah.
I think the older players are cooked. Only because we've seen this time and time again in this league. Like, unless you're friends with the guys on the team and the manager, and like you're still an insane talent, like your opportunity is very low. Look at majority of the roster changes are picking up just young, unknown, risk players, like or recycling players that are have been in the league recently. For the players that have been out the league for so long, or even never made it but been competing for forever, I just feel like the opportunity is not there. I think there are like rare cases. I think Gunless would be the most recent one, but his was a little bit more unique because he was in the league, he had stomach issues and whatever.
Gunless is also a multi MVP for like multiple years. Like now you can't even compare that to somebody that was literally never even on his level. Like they have no chance of getting picked up.
Classics won events and like I think you could make that case for him, but again, it's more so just like I don't think the narrative is working in their favor.
Well, I think the narrative can be changed with players like we saw Kismet come back in, right? So I think the narrative can be changed with certain players coming into the league and obviously playing well and proving why they should be there. So, for example, Pentagram's getting his rookie debut. Did he look the best versus Miami? No.
But that's the thing. He's a rookie, though. Like, that makes sense. I'm talking about for players that have been in the league, like been in the CWL. Right?
The thing that's tough is like players like Classic, they're signed to Atlanta FaZe as a substitute. So I feel like that also hinders part of it.
I think they get no offers during the offseason though.
The biggest
so they just
issue that I see
as a sub.
Yeah, the biggest issue that I see with it personally, because I was also in challengers as a older player that had a history that, Chris, we both probably went down the same road. You feel like you're always getting shafted for the younger guy. So I think that it's really up to these league teams to do a good job with their due diligence of really evaluating these matches. Like, yes, you want to see the new flashy players and, oh, wow, like this guy's new and he shoots straight. Wow, this is so cool. We can mold him. Cool.
I mean, I agree. They should definitely, it's up to them to like make that assumption and give these players opportunities, whether they deserve it or not. But I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen, bro. I think the league in general is on a downtrend in terms of like hiring staff and like people that actually give a fuck. That like that's not going to change, and it's just going to hinder that from happening even more. I think the only way this ever happens is if there's some sort of expansion or if there's relegation, whether these players get back into that circle or even get into that circle at all. Look at players like Weeman, bro. Weeman was a CWL guy.
Yeah, but the European players are a lot harder because of the visa stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But that guy,
like really tough.
But that guy has been godlike, like a godlike AR, and not only his role hinder him, but like obviously just like his like age and like how like preconceived notions. So it's just harder. It's just going to get harder and harder, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think like you guys touched on, like it's the ceiling chasing of the CDL teams. Like at the end of the day, if you're bottom of the league, you're going to go, oh, how do we make it to the top 4, top 6 placements? And they're going to take risks time and time again. And that's just how these CDL teams are basing their roster changes on, and they're trying to get that next Shotzzy just out of nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? They're just trying to like pluck a random guy out of nowhere and just hope they become Shotzzy at the end of the day. And that's kind of how the CDL teams are working at the minute. And that's why the only way we're going to have any of these players in the league is if there's expansion, which probably won't happen. I mean, will it? Who knows?
Probably won't.
Moving on to the next question here, guys. And we have it from Ed. I'm doing a really bad job of pronouncing these names, but Ed Stenkin. As an ultra fan, I like to see Simp doing well. First of all, that's a crazy statement to start off with. He's clearly in top 3 right now with Scrappy, of course. I like the way Hydra played and Kenny played this weekend. I'm guessing he's referencing the major. We have a core of top 5 players that can be considered number 1 at any point.
No.
I guess that's more of a statement, but I don't know if I agree with that.
No, we cannot. There's literally 2, and it's literally Scrappy and Simp. Actually,
But Kleenex.
I mean, no. I think Kleenex is good, but he has not been as consistent as Simp or Scrap.
I think we have to divide them because of the consistency factor. Like, could at any moment Hydra be in that convo? For sure. Could Pred for sure. But these guys aren't anywhere near as consistent as Simp and Scrappy.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. With how he played at the major and how he's even looked now, like online coming back, I think Drazah is making himself a big conversation for that same thing. He's gunning for that shit because he's been playing insane lately as well. So I think Abe, Cellium, Shots, even Shots, he's actually been starting to make a case for himself in terms of his individual plays. So we'll see how that develops. But
he got smoked in the final.
Yeah,
Again,
but the thing is though,
like if you're talking about setting the clear cut top 2, top 3 guys, it's the guys who do it every series. And right now, Simp and Scrappy have really been the only ones who have proven that. I think you're right. Drazah is making a case.
But so is Ant. Like, obviously, he started off slow, but like he's starting to like get there. Like, if he has another stage of worthy performances, gets to another finals, potentially playing that well, he maybe doesn't do it in a series in the finals, but like if he has,
that's the most important time to do it.
Yeah, but there's players that aren't even making the finals anymore,
and they aren't in the conversation.
Scrap was in that conversation. He didn't make the finals.
Scrap literally won major one.
I know. But I'm saying this.
Well, Kleenex got the MVP, but. Yeah,
but I'm saying, you're saying every time when Scrap wasn't even in the finals, you can't like say every time if he wasn't even playing that good at the last major. Like he played good, he
played good. His teammate had a 0.5.
I know. But you get what I'm trying to say. Like just because like a player like hasn't been that good at stage 1 doesn't mean that like if he progresses throughout the season, there's a couple players, but he said Pred and Kenny. I'm like, yeah, they're good, but like no.
I look at
it's
for
Scrap,
that conversation,
Simp, it's like Scrap, Simp,
who are
Drazah,
players who never get shit on. That's the question. Who are players who just never let their team down?
Chris Lair, Simp.
If you're trying to
Scrappy are the only 2 that are 100% of the time.
If you're trying to go into it right now, it's Scrap and Simp, but there are players that are getting pretty close if they have like another similar stage of performances. Because there's been some players that have been sneakily on the rise for their teams as like almost like hard carries. Anyways,
100%. Well, guys, that's it from us, and that's the questions done. Just want to say massive shout out to all you guys for the questions again. That's it from us here at the Reverse Sweep presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code Reverse Sweep for a first deposit match of up to $100. We hope you enjoyed the Call of Duty this weekend, and hope you enjoyed the show. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below your questions for the next episode, and we'll see you all there.